going on, everybody? It is I, the one, the only, Og Duck Scout, making his YouTube debut. And today, we're going to be talking about the AFC Souths quarterbacks. Now, first, we're going to start with Blake Bortles, the Jacksonville Jaguars' now 4-year starter. Now, to start each quarterback, I'd like to talk about the most common criticism that these guys get. So for Blake Bortles, what I could find was he's not accurate from mid-range to deep throws, turnover prone, constantly making bad decisions. He's surrounded by tons of talent and still has subpar play and just doesn't help them win games, plain and simple. Now, for his positives, these are pretty hard to come up with. Blake Bortles positives, I have, he knows their offense, been there for 4 years, can remember plays, call audibles, that kind of thing. He's good at avoiding sacks, seeing as he's never really taken a lot of sacks in any of his seasons. And then he can hand the ball off pretty well. That's one thing, but there's not a lot he does that's really well. Then I thought it'd be a good idea to bring up some of the names of the best talent he's had. He's had Allen Robinson, Marquise Lee, Mercedes Lewis, TJ Yeldon, Allen Hurns, Julius Thomas, Rashad Green, who, by the way, is a pretty damn good slot receiver. He's had Chris Ivory, Leonard Fournette, and then he's had some pretty decent protection. He's had Luke Jokel, who's not complete dog shit, but still decent at best. He's had Brandon Linder, AJ Cann, and now Cam Robinson as well. While also getting Leonard Fournette to back him up and make his life a lot easier. So he's had a ton of offensive help, not to mention all the defensive talent that they put on there. I believe last year they were top 10, top 5 in defense. This year they're number 1 actually. So he's had the talent on offense. He just hasn't done it. Next up, I have some stats that I found pretty significant. Every single year, when it comes to completion percentage for Blake Bortles, he's pretty consistent. And even though it's consistent, it's still pretty bad. Most people consider 60% completion a decent year for a quarterback. Blake Bortles, through all 4 seasons of his career, including the 2017 season, through the first 11 games at least, he's completed, in 2014, he completed 58.9% of his passes. 2015, 58.6. 2016, 58.9. And then this year, he's completed 58.3. So all-time low in completion percentage this year. Another set of stats I found equally interesting. In 2014, his rookie year, 6.1 yards per attempt. Now, that's considered bottom of the bottom, basically. Joe Flacco in the 2017 season is completing, I believe, 6.5 yards per attempt. And they are, I think, the 31st ranked passing attack. And he's never really had consistent play above that level. In 2015, he had 7.3 yards per attempt, but that was his, what appears to be peak, because he's never come close to it again As in 2016, he only hit 6.2. In 2017, he hit 6.4. So he's still got all that talent around him. And he can't get more than mediocre on his yards per attempt. Next up, I just wanted to point out where it would rank him. His 7.3 yards per attempt would this year put him ranked 16 through 19. He'd be tied in there with all of those guys. And that's subpar, bottom half of the league in quarterbacking. And then for every other year that he's been in the league, that 7.3, or his, not the 7.3, his average would put him in the ranking of 29th to 31st ranked quarterback in the NFL. So Blake Bortles, he's clearly not the future. They keep him in here even longer. Hell, they give him another contract even. And it doesn't look good. It looks like they're staying with mediocrity. So I doubt he's going to be around in 2018. Next up, we have the Titans, Marcus Mariota. Or Mariota, depending on your preference. I say Mariota. But Marcus Mariota's main criticisms have been he's injury prone, gotten hurt every year he's been in the league so far. He doesn't really make those around him better. He's got sometimes questionable accuracy, but mostly good accuracy. He makes some iffy decisions, not necessarily bad, but you could definitely argue that there was a better pass to throw or read on the defense that he should have made. Then they don't really want him to have the ball when it matters. Like that's one thing I don't like about Marcus Mariota. They put the team on the backs of their running back, not him. Because I don't think the Titans even believe he can handle it. Another issue I don't like from him, and this is an issue a lot of mobile guys have, he runs into sacks. Because with the protection his team has provided him, he should not be sacked as much as he is. But that mobility makes him want to run first and try to make a play, and he ends up running straight into a sack because of it. Now, there are some positives with this game. Most of his career, he's had at least decent accuracy. Most people thought he wouldn't be able to fit the ball into tight windows, and has. He's got a really strong arm. Really strong. He can read defenses. He can move out the pocket and make throws on the run. He can hit all three levels. He can basically do anything you need him to, even though he hasn't really been asked to yet. All right, next. Marcus Mariota's best teammates. These are some pretty talented guys. He's had DeMarco Murray, Derrick Henry, Delaney Walker, Rashard Matthews, Tajay Sharp, both underrated guys. He's had Eric Decker, Corey Davis, and four Pro Bowl caliber linemen in Taylor Lewan, Ben Jones, Josh Klein, and Jack Conklin. So he's had the help. He's had half of those guys for his entire career. But we haven't seen him play out of this world crazy or anything like that. We haven't seen him lead his team to more victories. It's really just been kind of average. Now, for some significant stats that I found that I thought were important was completion percentage by each year. His rookie year, he completed 62% of his passes. Now, as a rookie, that's pretty damn good. I would love to have a rookie quarterback complete that, because that shows a starting base point is a decent NFL season. So he's a decent quarterback right off the bat. But then 2016, as a lot of sophomore players do, took a step back, dropped 1% to 61% in 2016. Now, you could say it's just because they were starting to figure him out or things like that, but I don't think he's figured it out yet, even after that. So I'm not too sure about, his IQ in developing. Then 2017, through 10 games played, because he has missed a game so far, it is 63.1%. So he's not really getting better, at least completion wise. This may be his peak season with it, and it's 63%. So that's still just decent. Next up, his yards per attempt each year. His go as a rookie, 7.6. Sophomore season, 7.6. So pretty consistent right there. This year, 7.4. So he's been pretty consistent with that. It's just kind of average yet again. And with that yards per attempt each year, in 2015, his comparisons would have been Alex Smith and Blake Bortles when it comes to yards per attempt. In 2016, his comparisons would have been Phillip Rivers and Ryan Tannehill. And then this year, his best and worst comparison would be Andy Dalton and Matthew Stafford. So Marcus Mariota, he's not really setting the league on fire, but if he can take that next step, he can become one of the NFL's elite. But right now, just going off his stats, his numbers, what his team's done, they're not with an elite quarterback right now. They got a guy who won't lose them games, but won't win games, really. Next up, we have Deshaun Watson, rookie quarterback for the Houston Texans. Now, Deshaun Watson still the quarterback in here with the biggest questions out of everybody, just because he is a rookie, even though his season did unfortunately end prematurely. So we're just going to hop straight into it and try to answer the questions we can. Now, most of the criticisms I could find on Deshaun Watson had to do with things that led to turnovers. They question his decision making, and they just call him turnover prone, plain and simple, honestly. I mean, you can just type in Deshaun Watson and turnovers, and you'll see a ton of different articles written by a ton of different people asking if Deshaun Watson is just bad at making reads and turns the ball over too much. But there were a lot more positives that I could find than negatives. I mean, he's mobile, he's tough. Half the games where he makes those bad interceptions, he corrects them really quickly. He can make passes short, intermediate, and deep. He's really good at buying time with a bad offensive line. He's capable of carrying an NFL offense on his back with no protection up front and missing most of his receiving players. Then I want to look at the best teammates Deshaun has had this year. He's had DeAndre Hopkins, Will Fuller, Bruce Ellington, Lamar Miller, Deonta Foreman, Ryan Griffin, Braxton Miller, and his only real good lineman, Nick Martin. Now, with the lack of talent on the offensive line, he's really done well. Most quarterbacks are not going to succeed with no offensive line. And he was leading the NFL in touchdowns before his injury. And I think he could have led it for the season if he hadn't gone down. But for the season, his significant stats, he had 8.3 yards per attempt. Still in the lead for NFL. Out of the entire NFL, he still leads the league. He had 1,699 passing yards, 19 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, and that was only at 6 games at a starter. So he was on pace to shatter basically every rookie quarterback record. Every single one. Oh, and by the way, those 19 touchdowns weren't including the 2 he ran in himself. One being, I believe, a 45-yard breakaway run after stiff-arming Geno Atkins. He's been the best rookie quarterback I've ever seen. And one thing that's made it impressive to me, his NFL debut against the Jacksonville Jaguars in the second half, he showed flashes of being really good then, because an offense that couldn't get past midfield with Tom Savage, they scored with Deshaun Watson really easily, actually. And that was without 11 starting players making it through the half when he came into the game. So, missing talent and no protection against a really good defense. The best in the NFL this season. And he's lit them up. Then, Bengals game, didn't really have any receivers. His second best receiver was Jalen Strong, who was cut the next week because he couldn't get open at all. And he still won. 13-9, low-scoring game, but he made the plays that mattered. Good start for a rookie in his first career start. Then he went up to New England. New England, one of the best teams when it comes to stopping rookies, and that was his first real field day. He did throw 2 interceptions, but he also started to show, hey, you better take me serious, because he had over 300 yards and 2 passing touchdowns on a Patriots defense that is now top 5 in the league. Then after the Patriots, it's the Tennessee Titans, where he dropped 50 plus points on them. And yes, it was Deshaun Watson, because he threw for, I believe, 4 touchdowns and ran for 1. So 5 touchdowns on the day. They didn't do much. And most people want to chalk that up to, oh, the Titans would have won if Marcus Mariota had played the full game. Which is a crock of shit, because Marcus Mariota played 3/4 of the game and then went out. So 3/4 of the game and they didn't score many points is a joke. He didn't make that big a difference. Now, I also want to point out, because I'm not about to go through the rest of the games where he just did incredible, like Seattle and Kansas City, because I'm sure most of you already know that. Those were his coming out games on the national spectrum that everybody started to look at him at. So we won't even go that route. What I want to point to is they never lost because Deshaun Watson couldn't outscore the other team. It was their defense, which is a weird thing to hear when talking about the Texans, because the Texans have been known for years for their defense. But Deshaun Watson took what for the past 8-9 years had been a defensive team, and he turned them into the best offense in the league. Unstoppable running attack. You couldn't stop their receivers. You just struggled against their offense. And there's just so much more that is still to come from Deshaun Watson. He's not by any means a perfect quarterback. I don't think there is such a thing as a perfect quarterback. And if there was, we probably just missed it all with Tom Brady, who's going to be retiring pretty damn soon. So we got to get off of the Deshaun Watson now, because I'm going to end up going on for another 20 minutes about him, because it's incredible what the kid's done. Next up, Andrew Luck. Now, Andrew Luck, I just want to start out by saying he needs to get the hell out of Indiana. He just needs to go at the first chance. I don't care if he demands a trade. I don't care if he refuses to play. I don't care. He just needs to get out somehow, some way, because they're going to ruin him. Now, that being said, start out with his most common criticisms that I could find. He hasn't made the Colts a top contender, was one I saw on a lot of them, even though when he played all 16 games his first 3 years, he led them to 11-5. People wanted to chalk that up to, oh, Andrew Luck is just graced by easy schedule. Then next I could find was he's a turnover machine, which I don't understand, especially considering the lack of talent they've given him. Then the next I could find, injury prone, which I'm going to get into that later. But there are a lot more positives I could find on his game than anything else. Andrew Luck is one of the smartest quarterbacks in the NFL. He's mobile, great arm, he's tough. He can win with like no talent, one good receiver, heck, not even a good receiver, just to give him a tight end, and he can win the game scoring 28, 35 points, something like that. So, with all the criticisms and positives, I want to bring up how shit his teams have been. His best teammates in his career, T.Y. Hilton. T.Y. Hilton has been his best teammate on offense. And the fucking fans named him the Ghost because he disappears in games most of the time. Next, Reggie Wayne. Reggie Wayne was 34 years old in Andrew Luck's rookie year. And he's one of the best teammates Andrew Luck has had. That says something. Next up, Frank Gore. He was 32 in the first year Luck played with him. So, Luck got a beyond his prime wide receiver when he was a rookie. And then a couple of years later, he got a past his prime running back that couldn't do much because the offensive line couldn't block. It's atrocious what they've given him. And then I had a couple more names on here, but they're not even offensive players, really. I put Robert Mathis on here, and he was 31 in his rookie year, and he didn't provide any help to that offense, really. Then the only other two people I could think of, Adam Vinatieri and Pat McAfee, a damn punter and a damn kicker. That's the best you can give to Andrew Luck. After all the shit that happened with Peyton Manning, that is the best you can give him. It's horrible. Some significant stats that I found for Andrew Luck. Sacks that have been given by the Colts offensive line over the years. In 2012, Andrew Luck got sacked 41 times in 16 games. In 2013, he was sacked 32 times in 16 games. In 2014, he was sacked 27 times in 16 games. 2015, 15 in 7 games. 2016, he was sacked 41 times in 15 games. And I know from 2012 to 2014, those sack numbers started going down. That was all Andrew Luck. That damn sure wasn't the offensive line doing it. Because let's look at the hits the Colts quarterbacks have gotten over the years. 2012, he was hit 116 times. 2013, 109. 2014, 107. 2015, 118. 2016, 128. And then 2017, even though he hasn't played a single down, Colts quarterbacks have been hit 92 times in 11 games. 92 times in 11 games. It's horrible. No wonder the guy's injury prone. He's getting his ass kicked out there because they refuse to get any linemen to protect him. And I don't even want to hear, oh, but they got Ryan Kelly in the draft. Ryan Kelly isn't enough to fix an entire offensive line. My God, like after Peyton Manning's neck, he wasn't the same quarterback, and you're still not getting the idea that you have to protect your franchise quarterbacks? Like, what's it going to take? Shit like this is why I don't want the Colts to have a quarterback, because they don't deserve one. They treat him like shit. Hell, the owner of the Colts came out and said, oh, it's just in Andrew Luck's head. Really? You want to look at these numbers of how many times he's getting laid out, and you want to say that again? All right. In 2012, as a rookie, he had an 11-5 record, 4,374 yards passing, 23 touchdowns, 18 interceptions, and he completed 54% of his passes. That's a pretty damn good starting out point. 2013 took a step back yard-wise, but most sophomores do. 11-5 record, 3,822 yards, 23 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, completed 60% of his passes. If that's a sophomore slump, that's a pretty damn good one. 2014, 11-5 record, 4,761 yards, 40 touchdowns, 16 interceptions, 61 yards. That's really damn good. But, and there's always a but with the Colts, that was his last really healthy season, because in 2015, he only played 7 games because they laid him out. He had a 2-5 record with them, 1,881 yards, 15 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, and a 55% completion percentage. His worst year, and it was by far the worst year when it comes to blocking they've had. Now, scratch that, second worst, because in 2016 they had 10 more hits. There's no wonder Andrew Luck has been getting killed. 2016, 15 games played, 8-7 record, 4,240 yards, 31 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, and 63% completion percentage. Andrew Luck has carried this franchise every single year he's played. Every year. And they show little to no care about helping him out. And they do stupid shit like taking a wide receiver in the first round when it wasn't a need, when offensive line and defense was a need, they took a wide receiver. Then they'll take all these useless things that doesn't help their franchise, the only reason they're relevant, actually not get killed. So why would Andrew Luck stay? It doesn't make sense. He needs to go. He needs to speak out. He needs to do something. Because I feel bad for the dude. And one last thing. I found this chart. It is from last year, but it's still pretty damn revealing about how bad they are. It's an abuse rate chart. It shows what percent of the time a quarterback gets hit or sacked. Browns by far have been the worst, 18.89%. Which you could argue, oh yeah, Browns haven't had a good quarterback, but have had a decent offensive line, so you could blame the quarterbacks for running into stuff on that. Then, 2, the Indianapolis Colts. 16.30% is him getting hit or sacked. That is a joke. That is pathetic. And Andrew Luck needs to get the hell out of Indianapolis. Because this right here is exactly why he's going to end up not being able to play again. He comes back and they keep letting him get hit like this, and he won't make it. He won't make it in the league for 3 more years. 2 if he's lucky. So Andrew Luck, get out of Indianapolis.